guys, how are you doing? And welcome back. Is it time to change, right? That's the title on the thumbnail. And change from pfSense to OPNsense. And that is of course, a very personal question. But for me, I will explain why I'm thinking about it in this video. So if you've been following my channel, you know that I am a big fan of pfSense. It is performant. It is doing its job very well. You can run it on custom hardware. And of course, it is also very flexible and can grow with you. The way you want to expand your network, it will adapt to that, or it can be adapted to that, right? At the same time, I am thinking I am running pfSense in my production network, and it is running on a Dell server hardware. The hardware is very old, so it is not energy efficient. And I am looking into a energy efficient firewall solution without sacrificing the performance and the flexibility I have. Now, I could have gone with a pfSense installation, and maybe I will, right? But this is the opportunity for me, the moment for me to see if OPNsense is a valid replacement for pfSense. The reason why OPNsense is because I like that it is still running, that my firewall is still running FreeBSD, right? I like that it is coming from pfSense at some point. I don't want to go into the politics between OPNsense and Netgate, or the CISO and Netgate, of course. And I am a big fan of open source software. OPNsense is still there and still open source. pfSense is going, depending on the branch, it is going a different direction, I feel. So this would be a perfect moment for me to test if I can have OPNsense as a complete replacement, right? And the major part for me is performance. And performance, with performance, I mean VPN performance, but also IDS and IPS, right? So I am using a lot of VPN connections for privacy and security reasons. And of course, that pfSense box I'm running now, it has a lot of performance, a lot of CPU resources and memory resources, but at the same time, it is using a lot of energy. So I want to install OPNsense on a N100 mini PC I just ordered from Amazon and see if I can get the same flexibility and the same performance from that platform and make the switch to OPNsense, right? Let's get into that. Now, this is the mini PC I just bought from Amazon, and it is just it contains a Alder Lake Intel CPU, a N100 Intel CPU, and it has 16 gigabytes of RAM. And the nice thing I like about this, it has Intel network interfaces. The network chip is from Intel. That's very important if you're running FreeBSD based firewalls, and especially pfSense or OPNsense. And then, of course, it has no fan. It is a fanless design. And that's also one of the benefits of running it on this mini PC. It will not make noise. And the other thing is, it is very energy efficient, right? The CPU is energy efficient, but at the same time, it should give me the same performance I have now with my pfSense running on that Dell server. All right, so the mini PC is hooked up to my Nano KVM. I'm using Nano KVM. I don't want to sit at the system. I don't want to have a keyboard and a mouse connected to the mini PC, and also a display, of course, but I still want to be able to manage the system remotely. Well, a KVM solution is a perfect solution for that. And I'm using the Nano KVM. It is perfectly fine, working fine for me. There are a lot of KVM solutions. I will leave a video of my Nano KVM below so you can check it out. Now, this is the system, and currently it has booted up in the BIOS. You can see it is a Intel N100 CPU in there, and it is running on a speed of 800 megahertz. And the reason why it's showing 800 is because it is showing the base frequency, and the system will automatically turbo boost to a higher frequency when it is needed. That's a major part of why these CPUs are very power efficient, right? Of course, the first step is downloading the latest version of OPNsense. That is version 25.7 at the moment of making this video. So this is the OPNsense website. Let's click on download here and then scroll down, and you will see that the download options are there. I'm using the VGA version of OPNsense, and click on download and then save the file. you need to make sure that this file, of course, is available for the PC. So the way I'm doing it, I will be using Balena Etcher. This is a handy utility to have if you need to burn, so to speak, a image file to a thumb drive. That's what I'm going to do. So this is the OPNsense file I downloaded from the OPNsense website. Of course, I could select the files here to burn it, so to speak. But I already extracted that file. It's a image file, and that's the file I'm going to be deploying on that thumb drive. Now the file is selected. I can select a drive, and that's the thumb drive I'm going to use. So let's select that. And all we have to do now is click on flash, and wait, it will pop up a password option because of protection, of course. Do you really know that Balena Etcher is allowed to write files on your USB thumb drive live? So I know that it is perfectly fine. Let's do that, and let's wait for it to finish. Once that it's finished, I will plug this USB drive to that mini PC, and now come back to my KVM, and in KVM, using the KVM, of course, I will select that USB thumb drive as a boot drive. And now I can install OPNsense to that mini PC. So let's wait for this to finish, and let's do that. And of course, if we have that USB thumb drive, we connect it to the system. The way it would work is go to your BIOS settings of the mini PC, and of course, set it to boot from that USB drive, right? So in this system, and again, this can be different from the mini PCs you have, I cannot set a boot option here. I have to reboot the system, and actually during that boot up process, I have to select that USB thumb drive. That's the way it is set up. And after that, when the system reboots, it will detect that there is actually a bootloader on one of the disks, and it will start up that system. So for me, I cannot set up the boot options here. Again, your system may differ. So what I'm going to do is just go to Save Changes and Reset. If I don't reset, it will just exit. If I choose this option, it will just exit and come back in the BIOS. I want it to save the changes and reset, because now I want to be able to select that USB thumb drive during that boot process. So let's do that real quick. And just to make sure that that I'm able to select or press the right key, I will enable my keyboard on the KVM. And now I will say Save Changes and Reset. Yes, that's good. And I'm sure it will give me it is rebooting now. This is the nice thing of having a KVM in there. You don't need to be there. And I need to press F7. If I press F7, again, this may differ for your system. In my system, I can see that I have a boot option now, a boot menu. And my thumb drive is the SanDisk one. So that's the one I'm going to select to start up the installation of OPNsense. So let's do that. It is starting up. Let's click the keyboard away. We don't need that for now. Now we have OPNsense running. It is running in live mode. It is booted from that USB thumb drive. So you can see it here. It is running in live mode from the installation media. If you want to continue to do this, you can log in as a root user. It will continue to run in live mode. That means if you have another installation on the physical disks in your system, it will not touch that. Yeah. So, but I need to make sure that I want to install it, or I can install it on that internal disk in this mini PC. And for that, you need to log in as the installer user to start the installation. This is perfectly explained in there. Now, the system is not connected to my network at the moment, because this system will be running behind my pfSense for the time being, because I want to test it out. And that means the LAN interface, this is the automatically configured IP subnet for the LAN interface during the setup of OPNsense. And using the console, we can change that, because one of the things I want to disable in the OPNsense configuration for now is DHCP services. I am already running a DHCP server in my network, and I want the LAN interface of my OPNsense server, of my OPNsense firewall, to have a IP address in the range I am using for my LAN network at the moment. And also I want DHCP disabled, and I want a specific IP address to be reserved for this, right? So in a minute, I will show you how I set that up. So let's go back. Now, I will be logging in as the installer user. So let's do that because I want to start the installation. And the password is OPNsense. Right, so as you saw, I logged in with the user installer. Password is OPNsense. And now it will present me with some choices. I will continue with the default key map. I will install ZFS because ZFS it has a lot of advantages. You can create snapshots of your installation before you want to upgrade OPNsense or something like that. I want to use ZFS. Okay, let's do that. It will look for the disks in my system and I will set it up as a stripe, no redundancy. That means I will be using just one physical disk in my system. If you have a system which is able to have multiple disks installed, multiple NVMe drives or SSD drives installed, you can of course choose for one of the other options here. I will do it with no redundancy. That is fine. And this is the NVMe installed in that mini PC. This is the NVMe it came with, so it has detected it. Using the spacebar, I am selecting that one. So let's go and start installing that. There is a warning. Do you know for sure that you want to do this? Because it will destroy the content of the disk. Yes, I do know that I want to do that. Let's wait for it to finish. Okay, there we are. And I will just say complete the installation because the root password I already know. It's OPNsense, so that's fine. Let's complete the installation. And before I do this, I will remove that thumb drive. So let's do that before rebooting the system and making sure that it will boot up now in the OPNsense installation, which is running from that internal NVMe. So I unplugged the USB thumb drive, of course, and then you can see the system messages. So this is fine. And I want to reboot now. And it will reboot. This is the nice thing of having a KVM connected to a system when you're installing something remotely, right? You don't have to sit at it and be inflexible using a display, keyboard, and a mouse. You can just access it remotely. Very nice. And again, I'm using the Nano KVM, not sponsored, bought it with my own money, but it is proving its value immediately. So the system is booting. Let's wait for it. I have a delay configured here of 30 seconds because in case something happens, I want to have enough time to press a key, enter the BIOS or enter the boot menu. So let's wait for the system to go past that timeout and boot into OPNsense because now my mini PC, and again, yours can be different, but this one automatically detects that there is a drive internally and that drive is able to boot a operating system, and that's exactly what it is doing now. It is booting that OPNsense installation, which is on the local disk. All right, the system is booted and it has configured that LAN interface with an IP address. And at the same time, I know that LAN interface is running DHCP. I want to disable DHCP because this system is just installed again behind my pfSense firewall for testing purposes. And that means I already have a DHCP server in my network. I don't want this to be giving out addresses, so I will disable DHCP from here. But before I do that, I want to make sure that it has another IP address, which is in the range of my local network, right? So let's log in real quick here and see if we can adjust that from this interface. This is a console interface. I'm using KVM so I can see this. If you have a mouse and a keyboard connected with the display on your system, you will see this as well. Some systems give you the ability to have a serial cable connected, then you will see this console output as well, right? So let's log in on the command line. So the default user is root and the password is OPNsense, of course. I have not changed it. All right, so we will change the IP address of that interface. And the reason why is because I need to connect this firewall on my LAN network, right? It will be sitting behind my pfSense firewall. That means it needs a IP address in the same range that my local network devices are. So that's my LAN, so I need to change it. That's one thing. The other thing is I need to disable DHCP service on this LAN interface of OPNsense. I already have a DHCP server in my network. That's pfSense for now. So I want it to have a static IP and disable DHCP, sorry. So let's do that. Let's change the WAN. At this point, the LAN interface or none of the interfaces of my mini PC with OPNsense is connected physically to my network because I need to redo the IP address first in order to connect it to my network. So we will be changing the interface for LAN, right? And I have a IP address that's not here. We need to configure it via DHCP. I'm not going to do that, so no. Enter the IPv4 address. So this is one of the addresses, one IP address I have already reserved in my network for OPNsense. So this is the LAN interface. So that's the IP. And the subnet is, for my configuration, it will be 24 because I need to be able to access it using one of the devices in my network. Now I will press enter for the gateway. I don't have a upstream gateway for the LAN interface. I don't want IPv6. And I also don't want IPv6 DHCP. And I will enter for non-IPv6 DHCP. So do I want to enable the DHCP server on the LAN? This is exactly what I was talking about. I don't want that because I already have a DHCP server running in my LAN. And this firewall OPNsense will be part of my LAN network for the time being, right? So do I want to change the web GUI to HTTPS? I think that's a good idea. And restore the GUI access to defaults. Well, you don't have to do that because I didn't change anything yet. Let's wait for it to actually be there. Now, this is the IP address we will need to access OPNsense once I connect my physical interface. So that's what I'm going to do now real quick. So now I have connected the LAN interface to my actual network. So let's see if I can enter. There we are. So this is the IP address for the LAN interface of OPNsense. Now I can log in just with the root one, and it is still the default username and password. And now we are running OPNsense in my network for testing purposes, of course. There is no WAN connection yet. So the next step is for me to give it a WAN connection. Let's go to the dashboard real quick. So let's click on edit dashboards, click on a widget we want to add, and let's add the interfaces widget. Well, while we are here, let's see what other system or interface or widgets I want to enable. Well, for now, interfaces is good. Click on add. And now we can see here, there is a interfaces section in here. So this is the LAN interface, right? So let's click on save. And now I have an overview of the interfaces and their IP addresses. So for now, I only have a LAN configured. Let's configure a WAN. Now the WAN interface is another VLAN in my network. Again, this OPNsense firewall is sitting behind my actual firewall for now. And once I have done the testing and done all the things I want to do before moving over to OPNsense, right? So for the time being, it is just running behind my pfSense. That means this WAN will be part of another VLAN, and using that VLAN, it will get internet, right? So from the perspective of OPNsense, the WAN interface is an IP address in my internal network, but it doesn't know that. It just gets internet from that. Let me show you real quick what I mean. It is sitting behind my actual pfSense, right? So this is a switch which is running for my test lab. I have two interfaces connected or dedicated here to OPNsense. One is the LAN interface, and that is just sitting in my default network for this switch. And the other one is connected for the OPNsense WAN, so that mini PC, that OPNsense interface, or that interface I'm going to use for the WAN, this is connected to a specific VLAN, that is my test VLAN. So from the perspective of OPNsense, it has two connections. One is in LAN and the other one is a WAN, that's the internet. So if I go now to the dashboard, I can see that my WAN interface is up and running, and it has an actual IP in that specific VLAN I'm using for testing purposes. If I go to the overview of the interfaces, I can see, if I refresh this one, I can see that the WAN is connected now. It is talking to my VLAN connected. That is VLAN 130 in my case. And it has a IP address. So from the OPNsense perspective, LAN is working, WAN is working because WAN has an IP address it is getting. So now I have the basics set up for OPNsense to start testing my configuration, start setting up networking rules, VPNs, etc. And that's a way for me to start testing OPNsense physical appliance, right? And see if it is a valid solution for me to replace with my pfSense. And for now, I'm using it for testing purposes. I could have done this virtually, of course, but I want to have my firewall physical, right? And do nothing more than firewalling and routing the way it is meant to. And doing this on this physical mini PC gives me the opportunity to see if OPNsense or VPN interfaces or everything I am running actually on my pfSense now, if it will give me the same performance I'm used to. But using a lot less energy, using a lot less power, and being very quiet. So those are the goals for me. And of course, I know that pfSense can run on the same hardware. Again, I'm not going into the politics of why pfSense or why OPNsense. For me, OPNsense, it's open source. It is easy to install. Just download the ISO, load it up on your machine, and off we go. And the other thing is, it is giving me the same flexibility as I am used to from pfSense. Now I need to just make sure that it is giving me the same performance as well on this specific type of hardware. Now I'm also curious, what firewall are you guys running? Do you have a preference for a brand or a project? And why do you run that type of firewall? Leave it in the comment section below. As always, thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to click on the like and subscribe button below the video. In that way, you will get a notification when I post something new. And for now, take care and see you in the next one. Bye.